What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? They learned important lessons on the fields and courts of their high school and collegiate sports teams. This is true for both men and women. Ernst & Young found that a whopping 94% of women holding a C-suite position played sports. Their wins and losses shaped their habits and who they would become. Join me on my journey to sit with some of the brightest executives in the world as we discuss how sports shape their professional trajectory. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, the voice of America's CEO community. I'm your host, Don Yeager, and this is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is one of America's great business leaders, peak performance experts, and keynote speakers, Ed Mylett. While many leaders just talk the talk, Ed is a team-made millionaire who built World Financial Group, one of the most prolific financial service businesses around the globe. He is the author of Max Out, Your Life and the Power of One More, and has a passion for mentoring and coaching others on what it takes to become a champion in all areas of life. During his time playing Division I college baseball, he led the nation in stolen bases. And I am so excited to hear how he applies the lessons from athletics to his executive leadership today.
Every human being wants you to love them, care about them, really believe in them. It dawned on me yesterday, Don, I'm saying this for the first time. My dad getting sober completely changed my life. I'm not talking to you if my dad doesn't make that decision. Someone helped my dad, and I don't know who they are. My whole family for generations will be indebted to that person. Their mess qualified them to help my dad. That's the exact thing that qualifies you to help people, is your humanity.
Ed, thanks so much for joining us.
Don, you know it's an honor for me. Ever since we've met, I've been wanting to do this with you. So thank you for having me.
It's funny because I knew so much about you from World Financial Group. I got to watch you on the stage, listen to your podcast, but I did not have a full appreciation for how good a baseball player you are. You were born in California and played Division I at the University of Pacific.
Mhm.
Go Tigers. 340 batting average, best on the team. You led the league in stolen bases, 27 in 1 year, 75 in your college career. Tell me, what did baseball teach you about leadership?
Baseball was the first place, Don, that I ever felt valued because I was raised in an alcoholic family. My dad got sober when I was 15. For me, baseball was a place where it was finally somewhere I was pretty good. I was not a great student. I didn't have a lot of self-esteem growing up. What I did learn in baseball was that there was the power to one more. And it's no joke. It's obviously the title of my book, but I could outwork people and do better. When guys would show up and do batting practice, I'd take one more round of BP. At the end of practice, I'd do one more lap around the field. I really started doing these things when I was a young man. We were going to shag fly balls. I'd go shag for one more hour if I could. I'd get there 1 hour earlier. I'd stay an hour later. So it showed up for me where I had some proclivity. I think anything in life, you have to have some proclivity for it. I was pretty good hand-eye coordination, pretty good athlete. And then I could just outwork everyone who didn't take it as seriously as I did.
Mm.
Most great leadership lessons are caught, not taught. The guys on my team that inspired me, and hopefully I did for them, was their example. I can think of specific people I played with who I admire so much, who may not have even been the best players on our team, but just they worked so hard and cared so much about the team. Most leaders don't understand the concept of selling a big enough vision and a dream that the dreams of everybody you're leading can fit inside that dream you're selling. And I had a couple coaches that were exemplary. It's just, hey guys, this year, here's what we're going to call it. And no matter what my dream was for the year, no matter what the shortstop's dream was for the year, we could see ourselves fitting inside this captivating vision that this leader would set for us.
Right.
I was in a home immediately when I was raised where everybody was equal, all different types of people. But sports also taught me that. You talk about people coming together from different backgrounds. You know, we had guys from my college team from really poor backgrounds. Our catcher was from Montana, good old Montana boy. My left fielder was from Arkansas with this huge Southern accent. And Ron Beverly from Compton was playing right field. You know, like we just come together as a family with all these backgrounds. And that really helped me in business because I've built very diverse businesses, people of very different backgrounds. Baseball taught me the power of that.
in sports, it's that one place where I don't care what color you are, I don't care. Bring me something that helps us be successful. Boy, I cannot wait to be your teammate.
You could turn a double play, man. I don't care where you grew up. Just turn that thing, right? So none of that stuff mattered. In fact, it was fun getting to know different dudes and our joking about the different music. We'd argue what music was going to be played. The Montana dude wanted country music, and the guys from where I was from, we wanted hip hop music. Just so beautiful. And you know this, anybody that played any sports at a high level, like I don't miss practice that much. And I miss some big moments in games. Man, do I miss the travel? Do I miss the camaraderie? I miss the locker room. I miss the conversation with my guys. And you have that bond. It's just amazing. Like the rest of your life, when we see each other, which is rare. I mean, I'm almost going to cry. Like there's something that's just like we're instantly back. It takes us 10 seconds and we're back. And it could be 30 years ago.
I did a book a couple of years ago with the manager of the Cubs right now, David Ross, who had a pretty interesting baseball career. He talked this amazing line in the book about in these environments, you can become invaluable without ever being most valuable.
So true. Wow, that's beautiful. That's really well said, isn't it? Gosh, that's good.
I know you wouldn't expect that of a catcher.
Oh man. You know what's so crazy about baseball? Right when you say catcher, I instantly think of Rob Barber from Kalispell, Montana. Like instantly think about him. That's amazing. Bruce Patillo from Santa Ana, California. Like instantly I think of my catchers. It's crazy.
That is awesome. No, I love it. I love sports. But you did suffer an injury.
Yep.
Suddenly, this thing that was defining for you, if you will, is taken away. Walk us through that, if you would.
God has this amazing ability to disguise unbelievable opportunities, huge obstacles. When my injury happened, I just sit out a whole year. I had a really catastrophic injury to my calf that formed a tumor. They had to take out part of my calf. The tumor grew back. They took more of my calf. To this day, I barely have a right calf that I can walk on. It's a really fragile thing. I could have lost my leg. And we keep taking it. We just finally left it in there. Thank God. At that time, I had a team psychologist who had very cutting edge technology and visualization and programming your reticular activating system in your brain. And I'll never forget it. He said, well, here's what's going to happen for you over the next year. You're not going to pop out or ground out or strike out once. We're going to hit line drives up the middle on every at bat. He'd say, we're going to visualize. And I'm like, great. He goes, okay, can you see yourself hitting the line drive at the middle? I go, yeah, I can see it, Justin. He goes, no. Where's the camera? What do you mean, where's the camera? He goes, is it in center field, like on TV, looking over the pitcher, looking at you? Or are you in the batter's box looking out? Well, I don't know. He goes, well, then you're not visualizing. You should know. Okay, it's I'm in the batter's box looking out. He goes, okay, pitcher righty or lefty? I don't know. Can you see the release point? Can you see the stitches on the ball? Can you see the ball rotating towards you? When you hit the ball, can you see the ball start to rotate back out the other way? You would dial in the specificity of these visualizations were so dialed in that eventually I could see it in slow motion. I'd say, hey, it's a curveball. He goes, how do you know? I go, I can see the dot on the stitches. The dot means it's a breaking ball. He goes, good. Now hit that thing right up the middle over his right shoulder. Watch the stitches rotate back out. Why does that matter? I do that to this day in my life with my visualizations of my dreams, the business deals I do.
And it's funny when you talk to any high performer, they can do exactly that. We hear athletes talk about it. Most of the world doesn't really appreciate what does that mean.
I was working with some college players and I would do this visualization stuff with them. And they were just like Eddie Mylett was back in the day. I don't know where the camera is. I can't see the stitches, right? And so we would dial it in. Alex Rodriguez is a good friend of mine. When I first met Alex, I said, let me just try something with you. I want you to visualize you hitting a ball over the center field fence at Yankee Stadium. He goes, no problem, go. Where's the camera? He goes, over the center fielder, looking over the pitcher's shoulder. I go, pitcher righty or lefty? He goes, it's a left-hander. Breaking ball, it's a fastball, brother. Belt high. I can see the stitches. I can see. He was just unbelievable. He could see the ball disappearing over the center field wall. He could tell you how far it went over the wall. He could hear the noise of the crowd when he hit the ball. Like it was all automatic for him. And that was the separator between being a great player, all-time great player, and a college baseball player is a pretty good player. Big difference.
Well, my guess is somewhere in his growth, someone walked him through that experience that helped him get that precise, which is so beautiful. You got the blessing of that lesson too, but it only came because of injury.
It only came because of injury. Yes, these are all muscles we build. These are all skills that are learned. You can't teach Alex Rodriguez being whatever he is, 6'3", 220 pounds, being able to hit. You can't teach that, right? You can't teach Mike Trout's lower body trunk strength, but you can certainly, I call, max out what you have in the area that matters most to you. And these are things we dial in. That's why we're capable of more. It's why in life we can grow and change. And that's the whole reason I wrote the darn book, was that we'll take what you've got and max it out for you.
Ed, you mentioned earlier, sometimes you do this exact thing, right? You visualize into business deals and things that you're working on today. Walk me through how you use that in a business context.
So your reticular activating system is your life filter.
Right.
It filters into your existence, your awareness, what's most important to you. That's why you don't feel the blood rushing through your right ear. You're not conscious of your breathing. You go crazy if you're aware of it. So your brain says, I got to take control of what we're going to be aware of. And to the extent that you can be aware of the right things is to the extent that because the premise of the book is this: you're closer to your dream, what your goals are, than you think.
Right.
It's one decision, one meeting, one relationship, one encounter, one thought, one podcast, one book away. You're much closer than you think. The question is, how do you get them? I just bought a Tesla. I like what Musk is doing. I'm like, you know what? I'm buying a Tesla. I thought my favorite car, but I buy it. Now, Don, every flipping where I go, I see Teslas. I mean, everywhere. Babe, there's a white one. 3 lanes over, other side of the freeway. Babe, black Tesla. She's like, what is wrong with you? You know what's crazy? They were always there. I just never saw them. Now, because they're important to me, they're everywhere. The Teslas of your life have to become those decisions, those relationships, those meetings. It's auditory, it's kinesthetic, it's visual. You will begin to hear, see, and feel things. How do you do it? Repeated, intensive visualizations of the things you most want in your life, instead of the repeated visualizations you're doing unconsciously of what you're fearing, what you're worried about, what your problems are, what your bills are. You're playing that video in your head, aren't you? All day long. And then once in a while, let me dream. Once in a while, your brain moves towards what it's most familiar with. For most of us, including me, if I don't take control of this, my brain's going to move towards stuff I got to do, things I'm worried about, chaos, stress, worry, fears, anxieties, and just stuff to do. So if you don't take control of this, these Teslas are flying by you, these accounts, these meetings, these conversations, these contacts, these investments all the time. And this is not rah-rah. This is an absolute truth. And when you begin to put yourself in this state and learn these things, you're going to tell me after you read the book, many of you are going to go, my gosh, man, 60 days later, this is just super random, but I did have this business meeting. I did form this relationship. I woke up this morning with this crazy thought. I heard this thing on an airplane 3 rows back. I don't know why I could hear these people, because it's in your RAS. In the book, In the Power of One More, I go into what I call your matrix, which is the reticular activating system. It's in the prefrontal cortex of your brain. When you get that done, your life becomes the matrix and it slows down, just like a great athlete. Now I call myself a corporate athlete.
Wow, I like that.
I'm a business athlete, not just physically, mentally, emotionally. I want to program myself for the best and to find those Teslas.
I love the visual of the Tesla. Once it became something that was important to you, you saw them all over the place. That's so wonderfully directly applicable to all of us. We've all experienced some version of that, but if you can make it a regular part of your daily existence, imagine how much closer to your dreams you are.
Whether you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. That's the general part. Scientifically, how do we prove this? We prove it in the reticular activating system in your brain. We're already good at this. Don, if you walk into a noisy room, like when you and I met in that green room at John Maxwell's event, there's probably 50 people in that room or 100 people. In that room, it was pretty noisy. But if anybody said the name Don in that room at any point in the room, you can hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You hear that over the other auditory sounds in the room. Why? Because all your life, that name has been important to you. If you've ever been on an airplane, you kind of see a couple fighting 3 lanes back. You could be sitting there noisy, but you can hear the conversation. You're like, I shouldn't be listening to this.
Yeah.
But you're listening to it. You see these things in our life already. It's just a matter of taking control of what we see, hear, and feel that literally changes the reality of our lives.
It's pretty powerful. I had a chance to read an advanced copy of your new book, The Power of One More. We're going to have it in the show notes.
Thank you.
One of the things you talked about that was so well articulated in the book was the power of associations. You're only going to be as great as those people you choose to surround yourself with.
Yes. It's so fun to do an interview with a pro. I just have to tell you, it's so good. It's so easy. The power of association is huge. One of the most powerful things in the world is to be consistent with your identity. Your identity is sort of like the thoughts, concepts, and beliefs you hold to be most true about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thermostat setting of your life. I'm in the desert. It's like 90 degrees here today. It's 75 in this room. Externally doesn't matter. Internally, it regulates this room to 75. Now, if hot air blew in here and all of a sudden it's 85, 90, 95 degrees, what happens? The air conditioner kicks on and cools this room back down to what it's regulated at. This is your life. Say financially. If you're only 75 degree, you start producing 80, 85, 90, 95 degrees of results. It will seem coincidental. Your car breaks down. You have to loan somebody some money. A deal falls through. The economy changes, whatever it is. You cool your life back down. You turn the air conditioners on to what you believe you deserve. So how do we change that thermostat setting? We change it through our associations. If you are a 75 degreer and you are around 150 degreers, they heat you up by proximity over time, maybe not all the way to 150, but a lot closer to their setting than the one you're currently at. That's why association matters. It alters our identity setting. In my faith life, it was an area that really mattered to me. I wanted to grow in about 5 years ago. Let's say I was a 90 degreer in my faith life. I purposely sought out men in my life who lived in their faith walk at 150 degrees. And in that surrounding group I do my Bible study with, they have heated me up probably to 128 or so, right? Through their proximity. By the way, greater proximity, greater influence. So the closer you are to them, the more they can heat you up as opposed to if they're further away from you.
You and I both worked with a lot of Navy SEALs. They always talk about A players want to play with A players, B players want to play with C players.
Right.
They may be that 90-degree person, but they want to hang out with the 50s so they feel better about themselves.
That's a dangerous proposition when you do that.
Absolutely. So I've read a lot of your work and actually have listened to a few of your podcasts you've been on to prepare for today. I loved your discussion. You talked about Lou Mobley, who was a mentor to you. One stage in your career, you used to be kind of habitually late to some meetings here and there. And then Lou actually challenged you to commit to being on time to one meeting a day.
Yeah.
Gosh, I want to ask you about that. What that's like to find those mentors and to have people pour into you with just simple instruction about how to grow and get better.
I just want people to accept me as I am. Truth is, I don't want that. I want some friends that I pick up the house before they come over. I make sure I got my act together. And I have some of those friends who really shoot straight with me. In my case, I was someone who didn't value myself. Because I didn't value myself, I didn't value other people. I would show up late to meetings and then not even apologize for it when I did it. One of my pet peeves in life now is that, show up early. There's a respect. You don't always get your goals. In fact, you end up getting about 20% of your goals. You will always long-term get your standards.
Mm.
I had to change the standards of my life and the standards by how I lived and the standards of what I would accept and what I would tolerate myself. Malcolm X has this great quote, that which we don't hate, we will eventually tolerate. And I had to eventually go, I do not like this about me. The standard of who I am and showing up late and a lot of other things like that. And it wasn't until someone really said, listen, out of a place of love, I care about you. I love you. You're a really good young man. And this is not a standard you should live your life by. To the right people, this is a highly disrespectful thing to do. This speaks volumes about your personal conduct. If you can't get to the meeting on time, you're going to do this business deal correctly. You're going to be someone I want to work with, and you can't show up early, which is something you can completely control. And I remember saying, well, there was 30 minutes of traffic. It's usually a 15-minute drive. Plan for it. And by the way, be early, be a minute or two early. And it's something even today, we were scrambling. I was on another show and I'm like, where's the link? I don't want to be a minute because it's a standard of mine that I've really let myself down if I'm even a minute late to something. And you know this of all the athletes you've worked with. Great coaches, if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late and you get fined. That was just a standard in life, and it's something that I live by now. You will always eventually get your standards.
I love that. There's this moment, you're out of baseball, you're out of college, you're at home.
Yep.
And your dad sets you up for a job interview. Tell us the story of your dad and the beginning of the Ed Mylett career.
My dad's drinking is a common theme in my life when he got sober. I'm living at home, baseball's over. I'm living in the same bed I grew up in. I'm eating out of his fridge. I'm not really looking for a job. I'd actually quit a couple jobs already, and I was really down. My standards were terrible. My dad comes home from this AA meeting. He goes, hey, I got you a job tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Show up. It's in San Dimas. Well, what is it? You don't get to choose, man. You're eating out of my fridge. Get your butt down there in the morning. He goes, I have no idea what it is. To be honest with you, I don't know. Guy at the meeting, his name's Tim. Drop his name. So I get there. I walk in, 6 a.m. Hi, I'm Eddie Mylett. I'm here for the job. I don't know where I am. What job? I said, I have no idea. They're like, well, come back when you know. And I'm like, I start to walk out, I get to the door, I go, my dad's going to kill me. My dad is going to kill me. So I turn to the door, I go, listen, I don't know what the job is, but it's a guy named Tim. And they go, there's several Tims here. He was at an AA meeting with my dad last night. They go, oh, drunk Tim, go to Cottage 8. I can tell you my life, I can't even talk about this very well. For some reason, the last day or two, this conversation's really impacted me. My life changed. I walked in and my boys, I call them my boys, but I had 10 boys there. They were all 8 to 10 years old, all wards of the court. My boys were parents dead, incarcerated, or had actually molested my boys. I was not qualified to be there. I had no children of my own. I was not doing well myself. I'm not a psychologist, but God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called, brother.
Amen.
And the irony is I could connect with these boys because I know what it was like to grow up in some form of dysfunction. All these boys wanted from me was to love them, care about them. And here's a big one: believe in them and just show them how to do better. I spent the next 5 years of my life taking them to school, Halloween, trick or treating, open their present on Christmas, changed my entire life. I fell in love with helping people. And then as I started my financial business and then all the other businesses I built subsequently and coaching top people, whatever, my boys weren't unique.
Mm.
Every human being wants you to love them, care about them. A big one that people overlook is really believe in them. And then in your way, show them how to do something better. My life was altered. I was not qualified to be there. After I wrote this book, it dawned on me yesterday, Dom, I'm saying this for the first time. My dad getting sober completely changed my life. I'm not talking to you if my dad doesn't make that decision. I don't know why it never occurred to me. I'm 51 years old. It occurred to me yesterday. Someone helped my dad,
Mm.
and I don't know who they are. And it makes me emotional to tell you this, but Don, my whole family for generations will be indebted to that person.
Mm.
And do you know what qualified that person to help my dad? Their mess, their drunkenness, their drug addiction. That's what qualified them to help my dad. That's how screwed up they were. And all these people listening to our show that want to have all this success and these keys think, I'm not qualified for this. They don't have an idea how screwed up I am. I'm broke. I've got this thing I'm embarrassed by. I'm divorced. I'm heavy. That's the exact thing that qualifies you to help people is your humanity or your frailties or your weaknesses. Some person who was a desperate drunk and alcoholic at one point in life, and maybe again now for all I know, completely changed my family tree forever. And they would never have been qualified to help my father if they couldn't connect with his dysfunction. They couldn't connect with his pain. Little did they know all the drinking they did, all the drugs they did, all the alienation of their own family changed mine. I figured this out yesterday. And I've been dying to say this out loud to somebody. So you're the first person.
Dude, I got tears in my eyes. I love that line. God does not call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Fact.
Your weaknesses qualify you, right? To help other people. And that willingness to be able to be self-aware, to deal with your own weaknesses allows you to pour into the life of someone else. Dude, I'm like, I've got chills right now.
Me too. I mean, I would love to thank whoever that, if you're listening to this, thank you. My great grandchildren will thank you.
Wow. We've talked about the idea that your father was such an influence on your life, and you inspire millions today. It's really powerful what God has done in your life, without question.
Yeah, lots of different people inspired me. When I found my faith, I became really inspired. Jesus' story inspired me, but really the apostles inspired me
Mm.
because this is just a ragtag group of guys, right? Like these are just everyday people that completely built the biggest movement of all time. My middle sister inspires me. My middle sister, Andrea, is blind.
Mm.
She was born with diabetes and over time lost her vision. She can see in little shadows and different stuff, but she can't drive. And she spends every day living out her dream of using her gifts in the service of other people. She's a fourth grade school teacher at a Christian school. It's her kindness, it's her nurturing ability, it's her height. She's 4'11. She's the same height as all the students. She's doing what she was born to do. So she inspires me. I've had coaches inspire me. I did my dissertation on Dr. King. He inspired me. Why? Not only for what he did, but he was also a flawed person. He was not a perfect man, but he made one of the biggest imprints in the history of the world as one human being could. And he also talks a lot about dreaming. His most famous quote is, I have a dream. I have a whole chapter in the book on, do you have to stop operating out of your history and your memory and begin to operate out of your dreams and your imagination? When we're children, we're happier. Why are we happier when we're children? One, we're closer to God. We were just with God recently. But the other reason we're happier is we're in our imaginations all the time. We have no history and memory to operate out of. And as we get older, the imagination begins to shrink and get suppressed, and the memories and the history begin to increase. And we just live out these patterns. All of that's installed in your RAS. So you're seeing the same things in life, hearing the same conversations, feeling the same stuff. And you just redo the same story with a different cast of characters in it in your life because you're not in your imagination. All of those people certainly inspired me. And I got to tell you, so many people that have been on my show as an adult. Been in Uber this last week. Oh, my wife drives my wife crazy. I go, tell me your story.
I do the same thing, and it drives my wife crazy too.
I figured you did, just because we're so similar. We love people and love what we do in these shows. So anyway, this man driving me in the Uber really quick. It's from Lebanon. I've never been. I said, tell me about Lebanon. My wife's like, Eddie, come on. I'm like, and he takes me through. I lived in a gated community. I said, there's gated communities in Lebanon. He goes, well, there was. And I had Christians in my neighborhood and Muslims and Jews and agnostics all in the same street. We'd have block parties. I said, you got to be kidding me. I would never picture that. He goes, well, not all of Lebanon, but my little community was this way. Tell me why you're driving Uber. He goes, well, I've got a son at Yale, a daughter at Harvard, and my little boy's going to Stanford next year, and I'm helping with their student loan debt. What did you just say? You fled Lebanon and came here, and you have 2 children at Ivy League colleges and another one going to Stanford? You're amazing. And he goes, I'm not amazing. My wife is. And then he lit up talking about his wife. It was such an incredible experience that I just love people. And it's easy in society today to get jaded about it. We're all against, left, right, poor, rich. Man, human beings are awesome.
But they're only awesome if you'll take time to ask their story. That's the key. And that's what I love about what you're doing right there, because I think that's a real weakness in our world today, is that we're busy listening to our own story and we're not asking the story of others. So that's a great open door in this conversation as well.
Amen.
So World Financial Group,
Okay.
You send the ranks quickly. How did being a teammate on all of the things that you've been through as an athlete growing up, how did those experiences trying to get the best out of others, right? That catcher and that right fielder, how did that help you on your executive journey?
Such a great question. I talk about in the book a little bit on the 6 needs. Tony Robbins teaches the 6 needs beautifully, better than I do. I take them differently. I talk about leadership. So I learned in sports that not everyone's moved by the same thing. There's 6 needs. If you don't know what they are, there's certainty, uncertainty, love or connection, significance or recognition, growth and contribution. So those are the 6. And in my life, I always tried to lead people with what I wanted when I was young. Significance, significance, significance. We win, we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And so what happens in business is you end up building a team that's not very diverse. You just have people like you. Whereas like my dad didn't want significance. My dad wanted to be contributory. So if you're going to get my dad in your business, it wasn't, you're going to win awards and get rich. My dad would be like, I don't want that. But if you said to my dad, what we do makes a huge difference in people's lives. It can alter a family's existence forever. My dad would go, no, now you're singing my song, right? My dad was also a very certainty-oriented guy. He didn't like risk. So if I was talking about being an entrepreneur and it's different days, different all the time, my dad didn't want that. My dad was like, tell me about the background of the company. Is it real? Is it legit? I'd have to emphasize that stuff with somebody. Some people don't want any of that. They want to be on the team and be a part of the family and get loved on, and they want to be connected with. So I've learned to message different elements of the businesses I'm in, whether it was World Financial Group or my chocolate company or my baseball card business that I have now, not the same one I had growing up. I have a thing called Cards and Coffee. The different businesses that I've had to message those needs to people. And that's been a big, big blessing for me. And then the last part of it is that I did get from sports, competitiveness. People want to compete. A lot of people, I'm not real competitive. Those are people who are afraid they're going to lose. People want to compete. They want to be measured. They want to be held accountable by people that believe in them. So if you can believe in me, you can hold me accountable. Too many leaders are like, I'm holding you accountable. There's no belief. There's no connection. There's no relationship there. So the foundation is I love you. I care about you. I believe in you. Now I'm going to hold you accountable and we're going to compete. My strength young was I was a competitive dude. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to win. I wanted to be number one. I wanted to kick everyone's tail, right? And that's a healthy thing in life. Now, as I got a lot of that significance and recognition, my needs kind of changed. And now, if you would get me to do a podcast like this, we'd be like, man, millions of people are going to love you. If I was 25, that's how you get me on here. Now you get me on here by going, you know what? I think you're going to help some people. Be like, count me in. I'm in. So my needs have changed at 51 compared to 25. Neither is right or wrong. It's just what is.
It's like the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you speak only a language that you understand, if they don't get it. It's not their language, it doesn't work. But you have to know them in order to know what their language is.
Brady's one of the best ever at this. What you just said, you're brilliant, Don. So Brady, by the way, has a great RAS. His reticular activating system scans defenses and calls audibles pre-snap better than anybody. And he can also find open receivers in his RAS, not the covered ones. That's a big deal. Okay, he has a great RAS. I've watched him interact with linemen. Some of his linemen, man, they want to support. They want love and connection. And he's great at messaging them about love and connection.
Mm-hmm.
You should watch this man lead, you guys. He gets the love and connection. He gets certain receivers, man. They want recognition and significance. He got that with Brown for a while until it just didn't work. But he also knows Mike Evans, man. Mike Evans doesn't need all of that stuff. Mike Evans wants a ton of certainty. He wants to know his route. He wants to know the exact cadence on the route, exact play on the route, what cornerback and what coverage is going to do certain leanings on me. Brady gets leadership with the 6 needs better than anyone I have ever seen in my life. And I think that's one of the reasons he's been so dominant in his career.
All those players he's played with in his career, he takes time to get to understand their need so that he can satisfy their need. And when he can do that, then you've got a teammate for life.
You got it. And you look at teammates that he's played with, Don, as you know, years later, how close Wes Welker is with the guy.
Oh, Teddy Bruschi.
Even the defensive players, Rodney Harrison, these guys revere this guy.
Yep.
Even guys who weren't on his side of the ball because of his ability to connect.
So how can one of our listeners who wants to help somebody satisfy the needs of those who they're going to work with or they're going to lead, what advice would you give them?
You're the best at it. So it's actually being present. It's the ability to listen to somebody without having the need to formulate their response while they're talking. Just be. My dad's drinking gave me 2 gifts I've used to make money. I don't have a lot of talent. I'm a good communicator. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm good at that. And I'm really good listener. And I read people well. And where'd that come from? When my dad would come through the front door, I had 3 sisters, Don, and a mom. 5 years old, I'd have to look up at this man and determine really quick I'd have to read him. Is this sober dad? We're going to go play catch in the backyard? Or is this dad who's been drinking? His tie's disheveled. How's he walk? His hair, his cadence. And if there was that dad, I'd get my sisters upstairs. I'd have mom go take a shower. And then I'd have to start talking to him. Those 2 skills have served me. So what I would say to you, number one, is there's something in your background that's prepared you to be a much better leader than you think. Much better leader than you think. And to provide these needs for people. For me, it's my dad's drinking caused me to be great with reading people and listening and talking to them. For you, it might be your nurturing, your intellect, your resiliency, your toughness. And then listen to people. They will tell you. When you first meet somebody, they're telling you their resume and their background, how many catches they have. They've got an MBA. They've got a doctorate. They've got this, they're that. You've got someone who wants significance. The other thing you can do is just learn to ask 2 powerful questions. What do you love most about what you currently do? What do you like least? So if I was talking to a school teacher and they said, what I love most of what I'm doing is I'm making a difference in these children's lives. And I love that I watch them lighting up and I know that I'm contributing. I know that I'm making a difference. Awesome. What don't you like? I'm not appreciated. The only time they ever point things out is when I've made a mistake. This person's told me, if you're going to lead me, there's 2 requisites. Number 1, it better involve contribution or I'm not doing it because that's what I love. And number 2, I need more recognition and significance. They will tell you. You can say, what do you love most about what you do? I love that it forces me to change and expand and grow. They want growth. What do you like least? I've been with 8 companies in 6 years. I'm tired of the lack of stability at these companies that I work at. They're telling you, if you're going to lead me, it better involve growth and please emphasize to me certainty and stability.
I love it. Boy, I got to tell you, that is gold right there. No, so you mentioned earlier, Green Room, Live to Lead, John Maxwell's event. You shared a story on that stage that day that I attempted to retell a dozen times, which is the sign of a great story when someone tries to retell it.
Okay.
It's the story of your son on the golf course.
Yeah.
Would you share that story?
No one's asked me about that on a show ever. And I'm so glad. I know I've talked about it in public. My son was a golfer, little boy. My son was just not a good athlete. I was a good athlete. My son, we played every sport. Flag football, he was the blocker. Never touched the ball. Baseball, he got 1 hit the whole 3 seasons he played. We didn't know if he was left or right-handed, Don. I'm still not sure. He couldn't catch or throw either way. We finally just said, whatever hand you want. When he golfed, he started lefty. Then he went righty. Then he went back to lefty again. So I finally made this decision that when he was an athlete, it was just be about the good time. I liked golf because it was 5 hours. I could caddy. But where we live is the desert. A lot of pro golfers live out here. So he would show up to my son's golf tournaments. I'm all disheveled, a tank top and tattoos and sweatpants, and he's got some used rented golf clubs. And we would be paired with a professional player and their little boy, matching Puma gear. You can picture this, right? My son will go shoot 115. Their son would shoot 75. So Max finished last in every single tournament. I'm not talking about next to last. I'm talking about last. And he's such a good boy. He'd top a ball in the lake. Oh, whoops. And they drive it down. Great shot, Jacob. Wow. They just look at him like, why are you so excited for me? We wouldn't even talk about his score after a while. And then there was a week when we were playing with two people making the turn. We were down by a ton of shots. And it was 9 holes. You had to walk between the 9th tee and the 10th tee. And there was lunches for the kids. It was a long walk, and we were way behind because Max was playing so bad. One of the dads says, hey, guys, you guys go to the next tee. Max will go grab your lunch. He's way out of this thing anyway. I won't use the word I actually use, but I went, what the F did you just say to my son? He said, Max can go get the lunch. He's out of it. Come on, Ed, we're way behind. Don't you ever, ever speak to my son like that again. Tell you what, you guys go to the tee box. Max, come here. And I got down on his level on his knees and I grabbed his shirt. I said, Max, we're going to effing win today. I've never cussed to my son. I said, we're going to effing win today. And he looks at me, Daddy, I thought we're supposed to have fun. Winning is more fun than fun is fun, Max. Winning is more fun than fun is fun. We're winning today. Oh my gosh. Okay, Daddy. I said, listen to me. We're going to win this tournament right now. You got a good swing. You're a good player. You're a great player. You don't get to take any practice swings. I'm going to call the shots. I'll tell you what clubs to hit. Came down to the last hole, and my son won that day.
Wow.
We celebrated like he won the Masters. My son went from finishing last in every tournament that over 9 holes. We were down 11, I remember. It came down to the last hole, and my son in the back 9 that day shot 3 under par. They were over par, and my son won the golf tournament. My son went on to win, I think, 10 in a row. He started walking different, talking different. And that one day when we decided to play for real and compete, completely changed my son's life. And he went from finishing last in every golf tournament to now he plays college golf. He's number 1 on his college golf team. He's quite a golfer. And that all happened because we decided to actually compete. We decided to win. It's funny how someone who's down gets used to being down. They get used to losing. And it's also interesting when you start to win, how you get used to winning.
Amen.
The same person who would lose by 20 shots week after week after week now started beating everybody every single week with the same swing, with a completely different mindset, a completely different thought process, completely different confidence level, completely different swagger about him. It's a great story to hear live because I can elaborate on it longer, but I will tell you that one round of golf, that one decision, actually that one back 9 of golf completely changed my son's life. He's a more confident human because of that day that we made that decision.
We need to send a note to that dad and say, thank you. You've changed the lives of many because you've told that story and it's inspired confidence. My shoulders are square right now because I'm listening to you.
That dad, who I was real mad at that day, is actually a very good friend of our family and has actually helped my son with his golf game many, many times. So you never know.
Isn't that the best?
Yes.
Ed Mylett, you call yourself a corporate athlete. Today, you joined us to become a corporate competitor. And I cannot thank you enough for the time, the investment, the energy that you brought to today.
Don, you're a wonderful man. And I hope that we do more things together. I just want to say this to everyone listening to your show. I meet a lot of people an awful lot of the time. And I didn't remember your name when we first met. And I told my wife, she goes, how was your day? How did you speak? And I said, I met this wonderful man. I'm going to know him. She goes, what's his name? I said, I met like 30 people there. And I called John Maxwell and I described you. And he says, oh, it's Don. I said, hey, what a beautiful soul this man is. And I just know I'm going to know him for a long time. And today's convinced me of that even more, over the time of watching you and listening to your show and all our mutual friends and just what a huge influence and impact you are on the world, man. I'm so grateful we met back that day. And I'm really grateful we spent the time today.
Okay, I am ready to run through a wall. That time with Ed has me so jacked. I love the idea about goals and standards. You won't get to your goals, but you will get to your standards if you're willing just to settle. That most people lower themselves because they don't put the effort required to get to their goals, and they end up settling for whatever it is their standard. His lesson taught to him by that great mentor about the importance of being on time Now it is a focus for him. I loved the idea about the Teslas of your life, and that if you really want to understand what it is that you want to be, it's about visualizing and about seeing those things, making it a part of your active daily mind exercise to build yourself a vision of the Teslas of your life. What do you want those to be? Once you do, you'll be gifted with those things. Ed went through that reticular activating system so well, and he made such a great point of it. I also thought that idea about not always being qualified for the right moment, that doesn't mean anything. God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. That really struck home for me, because how many times have I convinced myself I wasn't ready for the moment, and I took myself right out of the competition. But I really want to end by talking about Ed's book, The Power of One More, his concept, The Power of One More, and that if we are willing to do one more, we have no idea what might be capable for us. We are, as he said, maybe only one more phone call away, maybe one more interview away, maybe only one more podcast away from our dreams. And if that's the case, I hope today you are one podcast closer to your dreams. The link to the book is in our show notes. I highly encourage you to go order your copy today. Before we end the episode, I want to share another podcast I think you would enjoy, called the Leadership Podcast. I was recently a guest on their 299th episode, and hosts Jan and Jim are incredible interviewers. They have a combined background in business, academia, and the military. So I love the variety of guests they've hosted, including Simon Sinek, Margaret Heffernan, and Kwame Christian. The Leadership Podcast stays true to its mission. We study leaders. So I encourage you to check out their show. I put a link to my episode in our show notes. If you could share one habit, one thing you've done consistently that allowed you to separate yourself from your competitors, what would it be? In my 30-year career, 2,500 of the greatest athletes, coaches, and leaders answered that question for me.
This is Don Yeager, who did that that article I was telling you about.
Don, Dave Sims with Coach K. How you doing?
Hey, Don. How you doing, my man? Great, sir. How are
What they gave to me is what I'm giving to you in my online course, Journey to Greatness. Through engaging storytelling and on-demand videos, you will learn the 16 habits that will jumpstart your personal growth. I will instruct you on how to apply these winning characteristics to your life through custom workbook exercises. We are slashing the price for our podcast listeners. Lifetime access to Journey to Greatness is normally $399, but for our podcast listeners, it will be $49 with the code podcast at checkout. Click the banner on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to enroll. Thanks for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you left us a rating and a review. We will be rolling out a new episode every Wednesday. To be the first to listen, subscribe to the podcast on our website, corporatecompetitorpodcast.com. Plus, as a thank you gift, you will receive a free chapter from one of my best-selling books on the habits of high-performing teams. Stay in touch by connecting with me on social media at Don Yeager, Yaeger, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next week, I appreciate you.